So happy to come to you this evening. Not with what I expected, actually, but we're going to talk about all of that. So I'm so glad this has been such a beautiful day. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. I hope everybody's had a great day. I've had a really full day. This weather is kind of wearing me out. And I'm sure it is with everybody that's growing. And so, ever changing between the pandemic and the weather, there is not really anything the same anymore, right? So I'm just going to push these out of the way. So, and here's the other thing. Obviously, the days are getting a little longer because normally at 7 o'clock, that's why I picked 7 o'clock to do these, because in front of the inn, this is the building behind me. Normally at 7, it's like that golden hour of beautiful, no direct sun. Well, the sun was like blinding me sitting over there. So I've moved around the corner, and I'm going to take you over there in a minute because I had some things that I wanted to show you. But I just wanted to first just really wish everybody a really sweet, happy Mother's Day. And, for all you folks that I'm 59. And when you're 30 or 39, you don't quite know how wonderful your mom is until you get older. It's like the older you get, the more you realize how they were right all the time, and they always had your back, and everything they did was to help you or to better you or to protect you, and you didn't know it and you wouldn't acknowledge it. I mean, I was a handful, y'all, when I was younger. And anyway, my mom's gone now. We can't talk about that because we don't want to have a boohoo fest on here, right? Anyway, just mothers are really, really special. So let's just talk about the current happenings, right? So the reason my day has been so full, put aside the weather for just a minute, and we'll talk about that. With social distancing, our schedule has changed here on the farm, and Suzanne, my sister, who is the bouquet maker, normally would be making our bouquets for subscription drop-offs tomorrow after lunch, but tomorrow is when our warehouse folks are here, and for them to be properly socially distanced in our indoor space, I don't want Suzanne here. So Suzanne is here tonight, which meant I had to harvest flowers today, and there's just really not a time. We've typically never really worked on Sundays. We have full days, and anyway, so on top of everything else I do on Sunday, I cut flowers today. Although I will say that we have, it's just for our subscriptions, and so the pressure was not on quite so much. So Suzanne is over yonder making bouquets with flowers that I cut this morning, and I will deliver those tomorrow. And so that's been full. And then I don't know if you guys live in the mid-Atlantic or in the South, and we've had, I don't really want to call it a polar vortex or whatever, because it didn't plummet. It didn't go below here. It went down to 38 last night. And actually Friday night, it was almost that cold, but the difference was we were having tremendous wind, and the wind actually protected the plants from that cold temperature just settling right on them. So we got more damage last night. Everything on this farm, because of course all of our warm season tender annuals are planted because we had to. This is May 10th. Happy birthday to my niece Kelly and nephew Jake. And this, so our seedlings were just getting uglier and uglier by the minute, and you're going to see some ugly seedlings here in a minute. So we've had them planted for the last 10 days. Normally, we would have had those planted 3 weeks ago. But as we looked at the forecast, we could see that we still weren't going to have above 60 degrees at night. So we went ahead and planted them, and then we covered everything. I have enough row cover to cover a whole acre and a half, but it is just so much work, y'all, to do that. So I kind of go to any lengths to not have to carry all those weight bags, get out the row covers. Bobo and I do it when it's necessary, but we really try to plant in the season, meaning seasonally, like at the right time, so you don't have to take these kind of measures. Anyway, Friday, Bobo and I covered everything, and we actually double covered some stuff. In spite of that, we lost probably more than half, if not all of our basil, which is our bouquet filler for our summer flowers. Suzanne is still boo-hooing over that. Well, I mean, here's the joy of succession planting, y'all. We have more that'll be ready to go in the ground and not long. That's what you have to do when you're a farmer. You have to always have more coming along for exactly this kind of situation. Our zinnias did amazingly well. They were all covered except for like a 30-foot piece that they were so tall. They were like, they were probably 18 inches tall. And I thought, if I don't hoop them, it's just going to bend the heck out of them. Let's just see what they do in 38 degrees. And actually, it was pink, which is not my favorite color. So you might say that I was willing to sacrifice them. And I will tell you the darn truth. They don't look any worse for the wear than the ones that were covered in the same bed. I mean, I had a piece of row cover that just wasn't long enough. So that was a pretty interesting experiment. The zinnias, some of them, the older ones, meaning the ones that are more mature, definitely took the cold better than some of the younger ones. And we did not cover our sunflowers at all. We have 5 weeks worth of sunflowers planted. That means 2,500 sunflowers at different ages. They were not covered because they too are too tall. They were like 24, 36 inches, not 36 yet, 24 inches tall. I knew if I covered them, they were too tall for our hoops, and I knew if I didn't hoop them that they would bend with the row cover because it also rained during all this craziness. So I just thought, what the heck, you know, this is an experiment year for me. So they look pretty daggone good, and in fact, I saw a yellow petal. So our sunflowers are coming right along. So I'm pooped from uncovering and covering back up. I uncovered stuff today because then I was afraid it was going to get toasted on the black film in the warm day. And I'm not covered. Tonight's going to 50, but I'm not covering them. They should be okay. Tomorrow night I'll cover them again. It's going down to the low 40s. And then supposedly by the end of the week, we're going to hit 60 at night and stay there, supposedly. So enough about my troubles, but the one reason I want to tell you about the weather is I did not plant the garden that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to show you the seedlings that were destined to go into this little garden that we're going to do together. But the bottom line was, when I looked at them on Friday, I thought, why would I plant these in the face of what's coming? The seedlings are ugly. I'm going to show them to you. They're just getting not happy in the trays, but I thought better than being dead, like some of the ones that are out in the field. So to protect them from the cold, I literally did not plant them. On the flip side of this is excellent weather for our cool season hardy annuals, better known as cool flowers, named after my book. They are just thriving under these conditions. This is like, for us in the South, and the Mid-Atlantic is pretty much the South as far as our weather conditions go. This is like spring and early summer in New England. This is how it is. You have cold nights, cool days, sometimes it warms up a little bit, and that is like perfect hardy annual growing. And you know, I'm just going to put in a plug here. This is another great reason why you should really have diversity in your garden. You should have some cool season hardy annuals growing. You know, snapdragons, our sweet peas are just starting. The poppies, bells of Ireland, just all those beautiful bupleurum, the rudbeckias, all of those are just loving this weather. Well, not only does that mean I have a crop to provide for my customers, but they don't need any care, y'all. They just, I mean, they'll take, if you have budded cool flowers and you're going below 30 degrees, you might lose a few buds, but it's really hard to protect them at that point. So, you know, while this is really good for cool flowers, it's not so hot for summer flowers. And so before, I want to talk about first, so when should you plant warm season tender annuals? Now, I did tell you that I've already planted some in our field, but we did that because we take extraordinary measures. We row cover, we plant into black film. We're not just planting them into soil and leaving them out there on their own. We're actually giving them support. But when should a person, what's that trigger? When do you know when to plant? Well, here in I'm in southeastern Virginia, zone 8A, 7B. We used to be 7B, and now we're 8A. Typically, our last frost date is usually around mid-April, and usually about 2 weeks after that, your last frost date, is when the nighttime temperatures come in an effort to provide the conditions that your warm season tender annuals, what are we talking about? Sunflowers, zinnias, tomatoes, basil, all the stuff that grows all summer that loves the heat, right? The tip that we're looking for is when nighttime temperatures are at 60 degrees and holding and going up, right? And that's to plant transplants outside, which I have started. Now, if you're going to be planting, so the seed collection, I know we sold bazillions of these for Mother's Day, and people are getting them. This is a little 3x10 garden. It's got the diagram on the back, and we're going to look at the bed here in just a minute. My bed is actually, we split it right down the middle, so I have 2 3x5 foot with a walkway in the middle, which really makes for perfect setting in front of my building here. But we started our seeds indoors so that we would have transplants to be planted the minute it's warm enough. So we're already ahead of the game, right? They'll be like 4 weeks old when they go into the ground. If you wanted to plant the seeds in the garden, which you can plant the seeds of all of these directly in the garden, the key is you need to wait until nighttime temperatures are over 65 degrees and holding. That means you're going to look at a weather app and look at the next 10 days. And if it's going down to 45, it's not time yet. And because you will have poor seed germination. We are already hearing from people that want to buy seeds again because they planted them 3 weeks ago in our location here in southeastern Virginia, and it's been way too cold. I mean, there's nothing to make those seeds sprout. And then when it rains and it gets cold, they tend to rot. So the weather has just not been timely yet. I will tell you that normally we're cutting our first zinnia like 2 weeks from now. When we plant our transplants, normally about mid-April, because we cover them and plant them into black film, so we're giving them that extra care, we're cutting our first blooms the end of May. That won't be the case this year. It's possible the early June, that's what I'm hoping for, if it'll just bloom and get warm, right? So I'm going to be doing these Sunday evening Facebook Lives for us to progress with our garden, right? And so I'm going to take the camera down here. Let me put the seed collection down. And I want to just look at the bed again, because these beds that we're going to look at, I literally built them last week. I didn't know I was going to do this, and I'm going to show you how you can instantly make a great bed. And I know that many of you probably have what you need right at home to do this. So I'm going to take this down, and let's flip this baby around. And let me get on the other side of this sunshine here so we don't blind. So I'm going to take a step back. And so we are, and there's my shadow. That sun is crazy, y'all. So here we are in front of the inn. That's that little sweet cottage that's here on my farm. And these 2 beds that you see surrounded by rocks, which are still going to get more soil in them, were not here. There was grass underneath there. And so what I did is I collected all the old containers sitting around my farm that weren't going to be planted this year, and I dumped all the soil here onto this bed. Y'all, I'm trying not to cut y'all off. I did it the other day on one. So I'm just going to roll back these rocks, and I'm going to show you what my little secret weapon is in here. Underneath here is literally a big, look, it's already starting to die. There is a sheet of cardboard. And actually, I was fortunate enough to have a large sheet, so this is all one piece here. And this is 3 foot by 5 foot, and then there's another one right behind me. So I put the cardboard down, and I put the rocks on it next because the wind was really blowing. I'm trying to put them back now, one-handed, y'all. It's not going really good. And what'll happen as I want more soil. This is only probably about 3 to 4 inches, and the plants need more than that. That cardboard will break down, but not as quickly as you think. So I really need to provide more depth of soil. So what'll happen is when I start putting more soil in, I'll actually stand these rocks up to start kind of building. See how that one's sitting up over there? There's lots of room for soil there. So I want to build a bed a little bit more depth. And here's the other thing that is really easy, because I'm not putting irrigation in here. It's in a very awkward area. I do have a bib, a hose bib right there that I can have my hose on. But when I go to plant this bed, let me get over here and show you. So what'll happen is, as I get more soil and add it on, I'm just gonna try to make this, y'all, and I'm looking at the bed, not at what y'all are looking at, because I can't do both. What I try to do when I am creating a bed like this, I try to create a depression in the middle of the bed like that, so that when you water, the water is trapped in this bed, and then it'll soak in and drain through. If you built it as a dome like so many people do, when you go to water, it just runs right off the edge. So I really do my best when I add the soil that needs to go in here. Doesn't matter how tall it is, I'm going to make a depression so that I'm creating kind of a dish. This is excellent draining soil, so you don't have to worry about that. And I have mixed in that crab and lobster, which is an all-purpose amazing fertilizer that your seedlings are just really going to take off and go. And so I have another one over here. And again, those were just containers. And some great tips on, I'm actually going to come over here and I'm going to get my tripod. So here's some tips on ways to build instant beds. Let's say you don't have any containers at home, right? I'm going to turn this around and put you on the tripod again. Let's say you don't have any containers at home. Stand by, y'all are looking at my palm. I'm having to screw this back in. So if you don't have any containers, you can buy, you know how we buy bales of peat moss that are in the big squares? Well, you can buy potting soil like that. A lot of times you don't see it at the big box stores, but a lot of times independent nurseries. Here where I live, we have actually a garden store. I mean, it was like his dad's. And I mean, it's like the kind of little garden store that like would be in a little main street in a little town. I mean, I love going down. It's called Mayo's, and I just love going down to Chuck's. And I mean, he has big bins of seeds, vegetable seeds, and he sells a lot of stuff. Anyway, that's where I find a bale of potting soil. He also sells, and you'll be able to find pretty much anywhere, bags of compost. So if you don't have any big containers to empty out like I did, and I need more soil, so this is literally, I'm going to actually steal some of our sunflower soil mix, which is 50% potting mix and 50% finished good compost. If you make great compost, use it. But we typically make it and push it into our garden, so I buy bags. So if you don't have access to containers, you could buy a bale of potting soil. And that's a big, I mean, it's like, I think, is that like 3.2 cubic feet? You know how it's all compressed, and then you have to break it all up and make it fluffy, and it's a little bit of a job. But if you want to buy potting soil bags, you can. It just costs more, and you need a bunch of them. And then just mix 50-50. Then add your dry organic fertilizer. We just love the brand Neptune's Harvest. That's what we use here on the farm. I use the liquid seaweed fish for my seedlings, as well as, if we ever get time, we'll run it through our irrigation, or you can just put it in your watering can and pour it on. And foliar feeding your seedlings once they're planted, that is just simply sprinkling water on the foliage. That means that you're just really, I used to, when I give talks about building a cutting garden and taking care of your seedlings, I feel like foliar feeding builds or grows bionic plants. They're more disease resistant. They're just very happy and very healthy. So that is a great thing to do. So if you build your bed, you build it deep enough, and if you want to build it with wood sides, or composite sides, whatever you want, whatever you have access to, that is all fine. When you raise a bed, it warms up faster, it drains better, the roots typically can just really move through it a lot easier. So there's just a lot of really great reasons to do that. So put down some cardboard, gather up some potting soil and compost, get your dry organic fertilizer. We just love the crab lobster. It grows amazing lawns too, by the way. That's what I used our seeds, our bag seeder. They asked me to see, well, can we put the fertilizer down with it? And in fact, you can. There goes Suzanne. And it works great. It grows a great lawn. That's what I practiced on, was our new grass out front, and it did a great job. But then, while it really is a bonus to use liquid fertilizer in your watering can, but if you don't get to that, you already have fertilizer in your soil, and it does a great job. So I want to show you, so I told you that we started our seedlings indoors, as we always do. I mean, we start thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And so we started, I actually did this on a Facebook Live. When was this? Oh my goodness. March 29th. Can y'all believe it? Typically, my stuff is in the ground in 3 to 4 weeks. And that would have been perfect if we'd have planted as normal, mid-April, second to third week in April. So I want to show you some, the zinnias look really bad. See how that basil just is not looking really good? I will tell you, this celosia is a smidgen younger. This is some different celosia. See how beautiful that is? This is how seedlings should look. Short, stocky. These guys would be ready to go into the garden. I have a big tray of these. I actually almost had Bobo plant these last week, and I thought, you know what? We are going to not sacrifice these fellas. So we saved them out. They haven't been planted yet. But these are how seedlings should really look, nice and healthy and short and stocky. But then you have this basil. This basil has been in the tray too long. I'm getting a lot of emails right now saying, I'm getting spots or they're changing color. It is just simply they've been in the tray too long. It'd be like you living in a 5x5 room with 20 other people. It doesn't take long for that air to get a little stale and no room left, right? Well, it's the same thing with seedlings. These will simply just take care of themselves once they get planted out in the garden. But look at the zinnias, look really tough. See all that? See all that brown, the lower leaves? And they just aren't, and they're a little tall, right? And they've been under grow lights. But this is simply because they've been in the tray too long. These were also started March 29th. So these should have been in the ground like a week, 10 to 14 days ago. We really love starting our stuff ahead of time, because if we'd have been able to plant these on time because of weather, they would have been weeks ahead of those people that plant seeds outside. So these will be planted this week. So I'm thinking next Sunday when we meet here, the garden will be built up, the bed will be finished, and the seedlings will be in there. And we're going to then look at how you can finish it off and what you do to get it so that you don't have to worry about it when a rainstorm and wind comes, because these are cutting garden flowers, right, y'all? And you're not going to have to worry about them at all, because I'm going to show you about netting and maybe some simple ideas that you can do other than netting, which just take more time to do. In our application, we would never dream of doing it, but in a home application, you can certainly do it. So all these little fellas will go in the ground. I think Thursday night is our first night of 60, Thursday or Friday. Anyway, I'm hoping that this whole garden will be in order next week, and then we can start talking about the next step. But I did want to talk to you about this because, our members only market, which is a private farmer's market basically here on our farm. It's for members only. And they can't come in our building because of social distancing, so we've set up our carport over there. Suzanne and I have been rooting around, and one of the things that we found was this sign. I'm going to read it to you. This is a sign that we used to take and hang from our tent at the farmer's market. And I'll tell you, if you're a flower farmer, I'm going to tell you, this is actually Luan wood. Our daddy was a woodworker, and he always had a lot of extra scraps. This is a really thin, see how thin it is? And it's really light, so it's easy to carry in your vehicle. We would use big jumbo clips, I mean the monster big clips, and just clip this to one of the legs to our Easy Up tents. And I'm going to read you what it says. And that is puffy paint. You know, we looked at last week, some of the rocks around my garden have words written on them, and that was puffy painted, oh my gosh, 15 years ago. And it's been outside for 15 years, and you can still read it clear as day. They aren't the pretty colors like this. But anyway, so this sign says, help cut flowers last longer. We are constantly reminding people of this, because what happens to the flowers after they leave your hand, you really can't control it, so you really want to help people. And I would tell you, if you're going to use this little cutting garden as part of a gifting garden, which is something that really starts happening for people, people have no idea. This little 3x10 garden is going to give you so many cut flowers. You're probably going to get a big old handful every week. And because the flowers are grown in your own little garden, they're going to last longer. Which means if you don't start sharing some of these flowers, first off, your home is going to start looking like a funeral parlor, about July, because you're going to have so many flowers, right? But the gift of gifting some of these flowers is just going to change your life. Y'all, you think I'm kidding about this. I'm not kidding at all. But people really don't know how to treat cut flowers. I mean, we hear it all the time, especially when we're at farmers markets. I mean, people would say things like it's 92 degrees outside, right? And it's 11 o'clock, and I mean, you're dying, you're melting down from heat and humidity. You've put their flowers in water in a plastic bag. They look like goldfish, like leaving the dime store, right? And that you hear them saying to their friend, oh, let's stop at Kroger on the way home. I have a short list. I say, excuse me, are you going to leave your flowers in the car? You have to treat your flowers like a half gallon of ice cream. Would you leave a half gallon of ice cream in a car that's going to climb to 140 degrees in less than 10 minutes? You know, that's why dogs die in cars. It's going to toast those flowers. So I would suggest to you that if you're going to gift flowers, a really sweet thing would be to make a little postcard kind of thing. You can do it on your computer, you can get fancy, or you can be really simple like I would be, that just says, this is a gift from Lisa's garden. Here's some tips to help make your flowers last longer. So the very first one says, do not leave in your car. And do not leave in hot car. People kind of forget about the hot thing. I mean, that's how pets die in cars. People just don't understand how that all happens. Number 2, use cut flower food according to instructions. What that really says to people, we give the jumbo pack of flower food with every bouquet that we sell tons of flower food. The reason we do the jumbo is because if those little teeny packets you see sometimes, they're only for a pint of water. A pint of water is not enough for the classic bouquet, especially for a garden bouquet, because they drink a lot more water. So if you put in more water than is for that packet, I mean, what's the point in using the flower food? You've diluted it so much it doesn't make any difference. Flower food has nutrients, which is basically sugar. It has a biocide, which kills bacteria, and it has a pH balancer. And that pH balancer in the water keeps water bubbles from getting in the stem and clogging it. It's true, y'all. We spend a lot of extra money giving our customers flower food because it makes a difference. It makes more of a difference with garden flowers than it does with store flowers. And we'll talk about that another time. Number 3, check water level in Vase daily. Already, so we dropped a lot of our bouquet subscriptions like tomorrow. I can promise you the third call that I'm going to go to, I'll walk into their front office. Their beautiful flowers were going to be looking like toast. Why? Because the vase is bone dry. Nobody ever looks in it. Garden flowers drink a lot. So you need to check the water level daily. It doesn't matter if they have a clear vase or a colored vase. They still don't. They're just busy and it's not important to them. But you can do it. Number 4 is completely change water every 2 to 3 days. I don't know if you've ever let water sit in a glass for a couple of days, and then when you go back and look at it, it's like totally funky. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in water, and when it sits, bacteria grows. And by picking your flowers up out of the vase, you don't have to make them come apart so your bouquet falls to pieces. Pick the whole thing up. I dump the vase, swoosh it, then I turn the water on, holding the flowers, rinse the vase out, dump it out, and refill it. You won't believe how that would help. Number 5 is, while you're doing that, cut a 1/2 to 1 inch off stems with every water change. What happens is flowers rot from the bottom stem up. So by you doing that, you can ask, my mother-in-law can get flowers to last for weeks. And it's because she changes the water every day and she trims just a little bit of the stem off. So there's never any rotten, breaking down, bacteria-laden tissue at the end. Big difference. And it says number 6, wash vases and flower frogs in the dishwasher. There is so much bacteria in vases. I see people do it, and I've been guilty. I'm totally there with y'all. I have had flowers in a vase in my house. The flowers croak, whatever. I throw them out, throw them to the compost heap. I dump the water out of the vase and set it back, and it never gets washed. Dishwashers really do a great job cleaning flower frogs, cleaning flower vases, and if you won't fit it in your dishwasher, you need to wash it with soap and water, because there is the water scum that comes from that water that we just talked about that grows stuff, creates a film that you cannot see. And when you put water into that vase weeks from now, that bacteria or that scum just kind of comes alive, and you have instant bacteria to start working on your flowers. So what I would suggest to you, maybe I'll, if I get ambitious, I will type this on my computer and post it. And this would be a great thing to, like, if you're going to gift your bouquets, to put these tips just to help your people. And if you have customers, it could really benefit your customers also. So I hope you guys will join me as we go through this garden, because what's going to happen is, so we'll plant it. I'll have it planted next week. We're going to look at that. We're going to talk about it, talk about some netting, probably maybe a little mulch. And then maybe the next week it'll be mulched and netted. And then we'll probably just kind of like not see each other for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe while we're waiting for this to grow. I'll see what happens. But then once it starts growing, I'm going to go through with you on cutting it, caring for flowers, what kind of problems happen. I mean, our darn dog has run through this garden twice. I'm going to have to net this garden. I hadn't really planned on netting it, but I'm going to, because that helps him to see not where he should not walk, right? So it's really cold, and I will tell you this too, that this little cutting garden, it's called the Cutting Garden Seed Collection. It is a perfect companion. As I am sitting here, I'm going to tilt this so you can see him. See this right here? This is a perennial. I don't have a lot of perennials here on my farm for a lot of different reasons, but this is one of the most productive. It's Heliopsis. It's called New Hybrids is the name of the variety, and it looks like a Shasta daisy, but it's bright yellow and it's a double, and it is so productive. So this little cutting garden is like the perfect companion for the person that has shrubs and other annuals that they're going to cut, and perennials to, like, I mean, y'all this is why this is how I became a flower farmer, y'all. You just can't believe how productive these little gardens are when you grow cut flower varieties, set it up like a cutting garden, and then treat it like a cutting garden, which is what we're going to talk about in the coming weeks. And that surprises people, but you just won't believe. And I will tell you that how many people that have walked with me with a cutting garden. You know, they started with one of our little cutting gardens. We used to have 5 or 6 different types of cutting gardens, and we've kind of toned it back a little bit. People that started with one of these, that loved growing flowers, they loved sharing flowers, they saw not how easy it is, but how doable it is, and they're flower farmers today. So it's really kind of crazy how that all happens. So y'all, I didn't want to keep you very long. So this is the Mother's Day Cutting Garden Facebook Live. And I'm going to be here with you every Sunday evening for the next few weeks. And then we're going to skip a few and be back once this garden is producing. And we'll see what kind of hiccups I run into and see what your hiccups are and try to help you with that. And then we're just going to kind of go through this journey together. And I'm so glad you're here. And I hope everybody had a great day. And I'm just trying to think, so what's going to happen this week? So this week, on Wednesday, I have a Facebook Live at 8 o'clock on Wednesday. It's called Meet Dave Dowling. For anyone in the flower farming world, I'm kind of interviewing Dave, and we're hoping to do a little roasting of him too. Dave is a huge part of the flower farming industry. He has been a mentor and helper to so many flower farmers, myself included. Dave and I have been farming. We started about the same time and became friends, and he has just been an endless giver. And anyway, so we're going to be meeting and talking to him. He has like, I might be wrong about this, he has like 9 or 11 siblings. It's crazy. Anyway, he's a fun person to talk about. So that's Wednesday. And then Friday, I'll do Meet Me on the Porch. I don't know what we'll be doing. I'm hoping we're going to have a lot of stuff planted on the farm and that we can start picking up all these row covers and bags. See, the problem with me is I'm not a neat freak, but things out of place kind of distract me. Having all these row covers and all these weight bags all over the place and not being able to mow properly, it's kind of getting to me, y'all. In addition to all this distancing and staying at home and, you know, all the craziness. So thanks for joining me, you guys. And I'm just going to pull the comments back over. And thank you all, so many of you, for joining me. And till we meet again and I see that there's another cold night here for us. Not tonight, tomorrow night, I think. So y'all don't let your guard down. The magic number is 60 at night for transplants of warm season tender annuals and 65 to plant seeds of warm season tender annuals outside. And yes, they'll survive the lower temperatures, as I've proven, but I can tell you that my zinnias are going to be disease-laden all season because of this stressful time. And hey, it's my pleasure. Hey, Brian, my cousin from Carolina. Hey, brother. So, till we meet Brian, side note, Brian's mom and my mom were identical twins, Marguerite and Margie, and their birthday was on Friday. They'd have been 90, I think. Yeah, they'd have been 90. Unbelievable. Anyway, moms are the best. So, till we meet again, gang. Ciao.